Good morning. Happy Thursday. Wow, that took me a second. Goodness. Been doing this weekly show on Thursdays for a long time now, but it's morning and sometimes I forget. So, hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Growth and Grace Day. Maybe that's what I should start calling it so I don't forget. This morning, we're going to talk about a little quick way to rearrange the alphabet to help your life go a lot smoother and help you have a lot less resistance. So we're going to talk about the who instead of the how. And this is coming from someone who very, very much likes to know the how. I really like to know all the different steps that are going to happen and exactly what it's going to look like. And what I've learned over the years is that you rarely get to know even the next few steps. And here's what I mean. So you can put together strategies and create your action steps of here's the different things that need to happen in this order in order for that goal to be achieved. That's very clear. That's like very step by step. You can know the how for that. And in fact, that's what I teach people to do is the how and the step by step. I'm talking about life stuff where you're like, wow, I really, I have this vision of, like, for me, I see myself speaking on stages. But I'm like, I don't know exactly how that's going to happen. And I've already had some opportunities to speak on stages, and each of them came totally out of the blue and not with me, forcing it or going after it or following a set action plan to, cashmere hair. You guys, you know the drill. Every week I get it and it just hangs out right there. So I have to block while I'm talking. And so those opportunities came without needing to figure out the how. And what I've found is that when I'm in a spot and I'm going, okay, here's something that I want to have happen. When I focus so much on the how of how it's going to happen and what it has to look like in order for that thing to happen, it totally throws me off. And oftentimes that thing ends up not happening, or it looks so completely different than I was planning that I didn't recognize it when it came into my life. So I was like, because that's not how I thought it was going to look, and that's not how I thought it would work out, and that's not how I was expecting it to happen. Totally throws you for a loop. So first, switch I want you to recognize in your mind is when you start asking yourself, how is this going to happen? How is this going to work? How can I possibly create that? I want you to start switching that word and just kind of rearrange the letters a little bit. Same 3 letters, interestingly enough, and just start switching it for who. And it's not who can do this for me. It's who can I loop into this project to support, or who can I go to for wisdom? Who can I learn from? Who's walked this path before me? And side note on that, I know, and I've totally been the person who very much resonated with, no one understands me, no one gets what I'm going through, no one's gone through this before, no one possibly could know what I'm feeling right now because no one's ever experienced this exact scenario before. No one else is me. I've gone so far down that trail of isolating and just choosing to believe no one possibly could understand what I've ever experienced because no one's experienced that before. No one's ever experienced difficulty in their business or heartbreak in a relationship or, just a really sad, heavy feeling when they got upsetting news, right? Yeah, other people have. And it took me so long to realize that. And it was it was kind of a twofold reaction. I guess that's 4 when I do it on both hands. Twofold reaction of feeling relieved. And I'm trying to think of, I've had so many different conversations with people over the years who really got what I was going through, even though they hadn't gone through the exact same scenario with the exact same people in the exact same situation, but they had gone through something similar and they were able to speak to it. And they were able to articulate something that I had experienced in a way that I'd never really been able to articulate before. And the light bulb went off of oh my gosh, Susan, you're not alone. They get it. They actually get it. They're not just oh, I totally understand. Wow, that's really hard. they're like, they genuinely get it. So there was part relief of like, wow, okay, this is cool. Like they just articulated it, they get it. And then there was part annoyance and like, crap, because now I had to let go of that story that no one gets me, no one understands me, no one could possibly comprehend what I'm going through. And that was such a regular part of my thought pattern that that was going to shift things in my life. And it's hard to let go of things that you're used to like holding on to. It's difficult to let them go because they're part, like you identify with them. They become part of who you are. And so, you know, when it comes to going to someone who like, who can I learn from, who's gone through this before me, just know that there are people who've gone through that, if not that exact thing that you're going through. Again, like, you know, I think of all my girlfriends who've gone through miscarriages. Like, yes, obviously no other woman has miscarried your baby. Like, that's your experience with your child. And yet there are lots of ladies who experience miscarriages. It's way more common than the public is really made aware of, because it's such a heartbreaking taboo. Like, what do I say? How do I handle it? How do I react? How do I respond? How do I help situation? So then people don't talk about it. So then people feel alone and feel like no one understands, when really there's actually quite a few women who've gone through that. And, you know, if we're talking business, like there's tons and tons and tons, and this is like my realm. I'm surrounded by entrepreneurs. I don't know any of them who've not had a struggle in their business at least like a dozen times if their business is still going. Like there's so many times that people go through hurdles and roadblocks and obstacles and they keep going. You know, if you want to keep have a business, if you want to continue having a business, you got to keep going through those. Same with, you know, relationships and stuff. You got to keep going. You don't just say, oh, obstacle, I'm out. That was great 2 months, but you know, I'm out. You keep going, because there's going to be a lot of wins on the other side of the obstacle, and the strength that you get while you're overcoming the obstacle is going to serve you in all the other arenas of your life. So that was a long tangent to say you're actually not alone, and other people do understand what it's like to walk through the scenario that you're in right now, the experience that you're in right now. So part of it, though, is you seeking out that wisdom. So part of it is you asking who's gone through this before. And it might look like someone you already know. You might already know off the top of your head, like, oh, I actually remember so-and-so was talking about, you know, the strategy they used when they ran into this hurdle in their business. Or I remember so-and-so sharing that they went to a support group for this because they also had experienced that pain. You know, like you might know someone right offhand that you could reach out to. And sometimes you don't. Like there have totally been situations where I'm like, I don't think I know anyone personally who's gone through this, you know, figured out whatever. But gosh, you know, I know that there are people out there. Like I just recently had, within this last year, was my first personal experience of having a dear friend leave for deployment. That, like, my grandpa was in the Navy, but I wasn't alive then, and I didn't know him then. And I hadn't experienced that, like, well, this is kind of a sad, now it's 6 months and we're like, we don't get to hang out. Like we can stay in touch and we can talk, but you know, we're used to being in the same city and hanging out. And so that was a new scenario for me. And I'm going, it was such a strange thing to think through. Who do I know who's gone through that? And of course, now I'm aware of tons of people in my world who've gone through that, but because it wasn't something I had been seeking out before, I didn't know that. But it can look like a simple post on Facebook. And I feel like I use that example a lot, because if you scroll through my Facebook page, you'll see there's lots of random posts on there, and they might not all feel related, and they might not all feel like it ties into a nice little story, but it doesn't always. And that's something I'm curious about learning about in that moment. So I post about it and see, sometimes I get responses, sometimes I get lots of responses, sometimes I get nothing, like crickets. And so I may or may not try again and ask that question again on Facebook. But, you know, there's so many groups and there's so many ways that you can find that support. So I'm going really far into finding the who, because trying to figure out and craft the how is so, honestly, it's destructive, because it locks you into this teeny tiny little box of, okay, this is the how that I have figured out. So it needs to look exactly like this in order for the plan to work out exactly as I have it laid out in my head. And you guys, wow, that doesn't work. That like really, really, really does not work. So I just want to encourage you to stop trying to craft and figure out exactly how something needs to look in order for it to be, in order for it to come to fruition, in order for that vision to come to life, in order for that, whatever to be experienced in your life. And I think back to one of my girlfriends who was sharing with me the time when she met her husband. And it only took one time to meet her husband. And she said it so, like, she shared the story of how they met, and it was real cute, and it was totally unexpected, and like they weren't set up on a date or anything. It was just they both happened to be at this event. And they both only showed up on the third day of a 3-day event. Like neither of them went to the first 2 days. They showed up right about the same time, and it was right before lunch break. And then they met and they connected and they stayed for lunch, and then they stayed way longer than the lunch break, and they got to know each other and started dating, and they were married. I think they said engaged within a year, married within a year and a half of meeting. And she said it so casually, but it really stuck with me. And I've been able to apply it to so many different arenas of life. She's like, yeah, so, one day I knew my husband, and the day before I didn't. And it was so, just the way she said it so casually reminded me, like, that's oftentimes how things happen. That's the how, is like, she didn't plan that. She didn't know that's what was going to happen that day. And yet she looks back and she's like, yeah, so, the day before I didn't know him. I didn't know who he was. I didn't have him on my radar. I didn't have any inkling that I was going to meet him. Like, I didn't know my husband. And then the very next day, I knew him. And it was so helpful. And the way she said it, she didn't say it to like shake me and like help unlock something in me, but it really stuck with me. And now I've been able to look at that in so many scenarios and think, you know what? I don't need to know the how. And that is a mantra that I say regularly. You know what, Susan? It doesn't matter. I don't need to know the how. All I can do is what I can do. So I can keep seeking wisdom. I can keep learning from people who've gone through this before me. I can keep, making sure my mindset is in a positive space, and making sure that it's in a forwarding, like making sure the thoughts that I'm thinking are thoughts that move me forward, and not thoughts that keep me stuck or keep me playing in this tiny little, like, well, stay here, this is safe, because nothing great happens here. Like, okay, things happen here, but this is like so constricting and so like, like, I'm thinking of it too, because when you look, you can see like a little hole right there. Imagine if I'm holding like a cute little bird. I mean, that would be cute, right? If I'm holding a little bird right here and I'm looking at it going, oh, you're so cute, little bird. But this is not where birds are meant to stay. They are not meant to be held here. They are meant to fly free. So instead of trying to craft the how and like keep it right here, even though sometimes it looks kind of cute, like, look how cute this plan is that I put together. Look at this, isn't this cute? Like, it's really good, right? My little reminder alarm to wrap it up. But instead of looking at this and thinking, oh my gosh, isn't that so cute? Like, let go and let it show you how cute it is. Let it fly around. Let your bird free. I didn't know I was going to use that analogy, but that turned out to be all right. I kind of liked it. So I hope that landed for you, to let your bird free. Stop trying to craft the how and make it happen how you think it needs to happen, because it's usually not going to happen at all like that, to be totally honest. So focus on the who. Who can I make a difference for in this scenario? Who can I support in this scenario? Who can I loop in to support me in this scenario? Who can I learn from? Who can I be showing the way to, right? Like, who can I bring along with me as I'm forging this path? Who can I invite to come walk with me and learn with me as I go? Like, there's always someone. So go out there, make a difference, and like let your little bird free today. Okay? All right, that's it for this week. I will see you guys next Thursday, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern, for another episode of Growth and Grace. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.